What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Gravity Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Chris. Thank you for choosing to tune in today. Hey, folks, we're back at it. How do you stay grounded in a world full of noise and chaos? What are your foundations? What are the relationships, the experiences, the values that keep you grounded when life gets crazy? For Jamie and I, we talk about our family, our faith. We talk about our core values. These are the things that help us stay grounded when life gets crazy, when we're looking at something, questioning, is this something we're going to fight? That's what we look at. And we see whether it's fight worthy or whether this is something that we can step back and simply agree to disagree on. In that, folks, is the way we take care of ourselves. How are we taking care of ourselves? A phrase that I like, especially going through tough times, is be gentle with yourself. Give yourself a break. Delay the conversation. Try to get a better night of sleep tonight than you got last night, and then reapproach some of these difficult relationships or tough conversations that you know you need to have. But be gentle. Have high expectations and be gentle with yourself. It's been a mantra that I've tried to live by over the last couple years. I can, as a type A personality person, I can definitely be super hard on myself, trying to get better constantly, which I think is good. I want to mature. I want to improve. I want to be a better man of character. And I want to be gentle with myself in that pursuit. I'm excited about today's guest, folk. I've only had a dispatcher on here once before, and this in particular dispatcher, Esther Click, I knew she had a powerful story. And back in December of 2018, she was at home with her family getting ready for a function, and her husband goes unconscious and dies, 49 years old. And he dies, and she finds herself being the one calling 911. And I knew she had a powerful story with that. That's always a tough one for me to approach people and say, do you want to come on the podcast? She reached out to me and said, hey, Chris, I'm open in sharing my story. And I jumped at it. One, I think it's this universal experience of loss that we all have on some level. And I really value the experiences that she brings to the table as a dispatcher. Just a little bit different perspective in this larger community of first responders. And so I'm really excited for you to hear from her today. But before that, folks, I want to talk about Deer Hollow. It's the hat I'm wearing today if you're watching on YouTube. Deer Hollow was the place about 2 years ago that I reached out to when I needed help. When I knew that my alcohol use, my alcohol abuse was interfering with my sleep and my overall health, when I was having some really dark images go through my mind, I called Deer Hollow because I had some friends that had gone there and they trusted Deer Hollow. So on some borrowed trust, I mustered up some courage. I made the call and I got my rear end down there. And it wasn't easy, but the staff, the clinicians, the clients, my peers, were absolutely remarkable and were a pivotal point for me in healing. Some of my buddies that went to Deer Hollow, they went back on the job, and I love it, celebrating them every day. And some of my buddies that went to Deer Hollow were either already retired or made a similar decision as me with where they were at in their healing process, and they ended up retiring from the job. Folks, Deer Hollow may not be for you. But if you have a first responder that you love in your life, including if that's just your coworkers, if you love your coworkers, I'd really like you to know of Deer Hollow so that it's one more place that you can refer a friend or a family member if they're in crisis. Look down in the show notes, folks. There'll be a link for Deer Hollow down there. And with that, folks, let's get into this interview with Esther Click. Esther Click, welcome to the Gravity Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited about this interview. I haven't interviewed a dispatcher like in
over a year. And I've
Oh,
tried, I've reached out to some, and I've even had it on the calendar. And then life has happened. And I was re listening to the episode that I released yesterday. Now, by the time this comes out, that's going to be about a month and a half old. And it was the episode where I'd interviewed my daughter. And she shares these stories where she calls 911.
mhm.
And at some point in the episode, I actually pause and give a shout out to all the dispatchers because I mean these stories where she shares in one case like these two teenagers are in a knife fight and the dispatcher did a remarkable job. I know because I got the recording, went back and listened to it, of helping her remain calm, get to a safe place,
Yeah.
provide critical information,
Yes.
and then once the police got there, and actually I was the first officer on scene, totally random. But when we got there, my daughter finally totally fell apart crying because it was a traumatic event, right? But
Yeah.
just the fact that our dispatchers have the skill set to do that, to help people have a certain amount of calm to where they can take a few steps that are going to keep themselves safe, potentially preserve lives is such a critical task.
Yeah, absolutely is. I like to refer to it as the toughest job you'll ever learn to love. And you really have to develop that love in order to be able to go through the calls that you have to take and be able to process them and come out on the other side um, somewhat intact. And it's not
Yeah.
completely intact because we don't.
Yeah. Well, you change. That's right.
Absolutely.
You can't be in any of these first responder career fields and be exposed to loss and trauma at the volume that we're exposed to it without there being some change. And like there was a certain amount of innocence pre doing these jobs that I think is beautiful and I
Yeah.
appreciate. But I wouldn't trade it. Like I really love the experiences that I've got to have because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, it's the experiences that really make us who we are today. If you go back and you read, and I've done a little bit of reading on like just even culture change within a business, an organization. Well, how do you change culture? It's not by addressing like the actions of somebody, but really digging into, okay, why are they behaving like this? And why are they performing this way? And it comes down to the very fundamentals, which is your experiences build your values and your beliefs, which
Yeah.
in turn become actions and what people actually see. So it's the top of the iceberg, but really the bottom of the iceberg that people don't see is your experiences that you have throughout your life that modify you and morph you into who you become.
Have you seen the movie Inside Out 2?
Yeah.
I just rewatched it and what you just described is actually based in science.
Yes.
Everything you just described, Esther. I mean, there is psychology that proves everything you just said. And I think the movie Inside Out 2 does a really good job of showing us in a picture how that actually plays out.
Yeah. I enjoy those movies quite a
Yeah.
bit.
Hey, for folks that maybe have never heard your voice before, could you give a brief introduction, 1 or 2 minutes of just who you are?
Yeah. So like you said, my name is Esther Click. I've been in the 911 industry since 2006. So my hire date was 9/11/2006, which
Oh,
is
wow.
a hard date to forget, you know.
Yeah.
But I think things happen for a reason in life, and I take that hire date as a symbol um, of telling me that this is where I belong because
Mm.
I truly believe in that mission. I can say that when I applied to be a 911 dispatcher, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I really didn't. Yeah, I absolutely didn't. I'm not going to lie. You know, the first year was tough because I was naive. I was very young. And I learned really quickly the things that we actually were exposed to and the expectations of people for us, and also the weight that we carry because we want to keep all our first responders safe
Yeah.
and ensuring that piece of it. So you have a twofold. You have the call taking part where you listen to all these calls, but then you also have this weight of, okay, I need to make sure that these people that are working for me and I'm dispatching for get home safe to their families. And I went through that in the first year. I knew I was going to love this. I just fell in love with the purpose and the mission behind it. And it wasn't easy. And I continued on with my career, developed myself a little bit, became a training officer, then went into other leadership roles as supervisor. And then today I am the manager for a dispatch center in Walla Walla County. And I have just, gotten to a point in my career where I have the opportunity to actually do some good for our profession. And
Mm.
that's what I'm really loving right now. I mean, I love the call taking. I still go out onto the floor and pick up a couple of calls here and there. Um, but my mission has kind of morphed into something else now. And it's something that I truly, truly love. In addition to just other public service things I do, I enjoy community service and giving back to our community. So I'm a Rotarian. I participate in our noon Rotary down here in Walla Walla, something that I'm really passionate about as well. I believe in giving back to our community in ways that will benefit our future. So I am on the board of trustees for the Walla Walla County Rural Library District. Um, and in libraries, people think of, oh, libraries. Libraries are so important because
Yeah, they are.
they're not what people think they used to be. They're a community center. They've evolved into
Mm.
this new thing, and being able to play a little role in the protection and ensuring that our children and people within our community that maybe don't have the means to have resources to still do things that maybe they otherwise wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah. I have the Libby app on my phone and I still check out books. I still
Hmm.
check out books. I don't do the physical books as much. Honestly, most of the time, I'm at a point in my life that I can afford to purchase books. And I love, if it's a book that I'm buying or that I want to read, someone has probably gave it to me as a recommendation. And so I'm probably just spending my money and getting
Yeah.
the paper
Yep.
copy that I can touch and dog ear and
Yep. Yep.
underline. And uh,
Highlights.
Yep. But there are times that I want to consume a book
Mhm.
and or where I know I'm going to have a long drive or I'm out of town for a week and I'm just going to have more time just by myself. And that's usually when I'll download a book
I
on
am.
Libby and I'll sit there and re-listen to a book that I've
Mhm.
read before, but now I'm taking it in again. I'm remembering some of those key points, and that's a
Yeah.
function of our community libraries.
Yes, it absolutely is. Yeah.
I love it. So let's talk about the early days. Like, do you remember the first dispatch where like your eyes were like, pa, like just like wide open? You're like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So my first radio I trained on was dispatching on Kennewick Police Department. So
Oh,
we call
God
it
bless
Kennewick
you.
Primary. Yeah. And so I was like, whew, it was rough. But it was towards the end, I believe, of my training session. We're starting to kind of separate between the trainer and myself. And we had a significant incident at a local school. And um, it involved weapons, and I was literally I had to hyper focus, and everything slows down for you. It's
Mm,
very interesting, but everything kind of slows down, and you're like, okay, I got to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, and going through that process, and then your body actually tenses up. And I didn't know this at the point, but I've learned through studying and some reading that I've done that your body releases all these chemicals, and instantly just sit up straight, and you're like, this is your world right now, and you're listening, and this is your world, and everything around you is going on, but this is your world right now. And once the incident started to get to a point where um, it was a little bit more settled down. I mean, it was still going, but it was more controlled, and the traffic wasn't overwhelming. My shoulders just went down. Yep.
yes.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, what just happened?
Mm,
What just happened? Um, and I actually had to sit down. And I'm like, is this really what I want to do?
mm,
And I already loved the job at that point, but I'm
yeah.
like, is this really what I want to do? Because I felt myself shaky. Um, I questioned my responses. I questioned my ability to keep up with the officers. I questioned everything that I did. I questioned. And at the end of the day, the incident, closed out. It was, as successful as it could be, but I still was not sure that I was performing where I needed to perform in order to be a good dispatcher and a valuable one for the officers in the field. Um, and so it took some time for me to build my confidence
Yeah.
and to get to that point and really learn that, you know, you can't predict certain things. And it's not so much forgetting something or not capturing something. It's, are you confident enough to know that one, you didn't hear that correctly, so you're going to ask for reaffirmation. um,
Yeah.
and and don't be shy about asking questions if you don't understand a verbiage, because sometimes, officers will start talking certain verbiages and we know most of them, but every once in a while something will come out that we might not understand, or it's something new. And so learning and having the confidence to say, what does that mean? Or, go again, or say, trying to get them to explain what they're saying to really understand what they're asking for, is something that I had to learn. And it didn't come easy, because I was like, how am I going to question them? And how, I need to be able to understand everything they say, but that's not true. We're human. We don't know everything. We can't predict everything. And
Yeah.
we have to be okay with that and give ourselves a little bit of grace.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you say give ourselves grace, because that's what I do after calls. Is I oftentimes am being ultra critical of what I said, what I
Mhm.
did. Now, as an instructor, I do the exact same thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
After teaching a class,
Mhm.
I'm. It's not like I'm going through and like repeating the entire class in my mind, but I'll be sitting down to eat, and all of a sudden
Mhm.
something I said will come back to my mind. I'm like,
Yep.
I don't know if that was a good way to explain that. I hope they
Yeah.
did. I hope they didn't hear this one thing from that. That's not what I intended.
Yep.
And I think that can be a healthy process
Yeah.
if in doing that we're trying to get better. If in doing that
Mhm.
you go, you know what, I should have asked for clarification on that.
Yeah.
You know what, the next time when
Yep.
an officer says something that I don't understand, or a firefighter says this, I'm going to ask for them to repeat themselves, or I'm going
Mhm.
to ask for them to clarify. Or in my case, the next time I teach that class, I'm going to explain that just a little bit differently, because I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
this other method would connect with students better. I
Mhm.
think that's healthy. Now, where it's not healthy is when we are constantly beating ourselves up.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I'm a failure. I'm a failure. Here's the thing. It's not meant for everyone. I mean, you've
No.
seen it in dispatch. I've seen it in
No.
policing. I've heard stories in the fire world where some people come into the job, they try it for a while, and they just realize, hey,
Mhm.
this this is just not going to be the right thing for
Nope.
me. And so I
Yep.
think everyone at some point is going to be asking that question. Am I really cut out to do
Yeah.
this? And it's really, I think it's an individual question, and you also have to be getting feedback from your peers, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
they're going to be able to tell you stuff that maybe you don't even see for yourself.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that's absolutely right. And I think there's obviously when you do that, and what I've had to learn is that the reason that I do that, or we do that, is because we care. We
Yeah.
truly care about the end result of what we're delivering, whatever it may be, a service, a conversation, a training. We care. And if whenever there is a care factor, you're gonna go back and relive some things and question and see how you can improve. And I tell my dispatchers today all the time, I'm like, if you can get yourself out of the hole that you've put yourself into, that's a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
And learning from it and
Yeah.
knowing, okay, next time if I start hearing these cues, I know this is probably the direction we're going to go. And mentally preparing yourself for that.
Yeah. Totally.
And that's a skill that you develop with time, especially when officers would go on pursuits. So there's certain cues that you would start hearing, and you're like, okay, here we go, let's get going. But
Yeah.
and so it's funny because a lot of the times when officers would start talking to me based on what they had done previously, I knew what they were going to do, whether they were going to go en route, whether they were going to clear, whether they were going to add notes, whatever it was. I typically already had it like pre-staged on my command line for my computer because I knew based on past experiences and past behaviors what this officer was going to do next.
Yeah, boy, that's complex just because there's so many of us, especially as you're, you know, at CCOM where you used to work. I mean, you don't just have Kennewick, you have multiple channels, and as
Yeah,
you get trained up and certified on each channel, it's a lot of deputies and a lot of officers from all the different
officers. Yep.
agencies for you
Yeah.
to,
Yep.
yeah. How
Yep.
long does it take? And I realize that's a broad question, so maybe answer it for yourself. How long did it take before you really felt comfortable in what you were doing? You know what I'm saying? You had that
Mhm.
confidence that, it's not
Mhm.
that I'm perfect, but it's just that I got this. Like I feel really
Mhm.
comfortable in doing my job.
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
3 years. And that's typically actually what I tell my dispatchers. I said, don't expect to be feel good in 1 year. Don't expect to feel good in 2 years.
Yeah.
3 years. In 3 years, you should be to the point where you're like, I've done this. You've gone through a couple seasons,
Yeah.
and every season's a little bit different. Some are being our busiest one, obviously. And so I'm like, you've gone through the seasons, you kind of know the routine now. Um, so that's 3 years. I would say is average. And with other people I've spoken to in other dispatch centers, that's typically what it is, about 3 years, 3 to 5 years, depending on how large your agency is.
That's a really good point right there, because depending on the size of the agencies that you're serving as a
Mhm.
dispatcher, and then size of communities as a
Mhm.
patrol officer, you get more repetition, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that's what it's about. I was out on the San Juan Islands recently. I was talking to some of the deputies out there, and they experience everything I experienced. And what they told me was it's just at a much less of a volume.
Mhm.
They were like, we get fatalities out here, we get homicides out here. We just don't get them very often. Now, here was the interesting thing they said. Um, the struggle that they have is when those things happen,
Mhm.
you always know the involved parties.
Yeah.
Whereas Tri-Cities, 350,000 people or
Mhm.
so, right?
Mhm.
Like most of the time I was coming out to calls and I didn't know
Yeah.
the people I was serving, victims
Yeah.
or suspects or whatever. I mean, eventually as a cop, I started getting to know some of the suspects over and
Yep.
over again. But when it came to like traffic collisions and stuff, most
Mhm.
of the time I didn't know the people
Yep.
because it's just such a big community.
Yep. Yeah. And Walla Walla County, I would say, is right at that cuff where the majority of my dispatchers know the people calling in.
Wow.
And so that adds actually a layer of complexity
Oh, it
because
does.
I have to have the ability, and my supervisors have to have the ability to watch for those things, especially those high impact calls, that can be quite triggering, especially if it's your neighbor, if it's your family member. And there's a lot of that down in Walla Walla County. There's a lot of history and a lot of families that have been here for a long time, and most people know everyone.
Yeah.
Um, and so, or to some extent, have some level of acquaintance. So I do have to consider that. And that is very, very different than coming from CCOM, where the majority of the calls, like you said, I didn't know the people. There was our routine ones, but other than that, I didn't know most of the people. And, we have to be able to be on a call, whether it's a domestic violence or CPR, or whatever it is, be on the call. And the one thing that's different about us is we don't get that closure that most officers, fire, EMS are able to sometimes get because they have to do that report and kind of close it out. We don't. We're in the midst of an incident, and especially if it's a high priority, high emotions, high impact, we're in the middle of it, and then we just cut off. And then you have to reset like that
And answer the next call.
and answer the next one and not let, and this is a huge ask, and how do you ask a human to do this? Not let the chemicals and the emotions and everything that you just lived and listened to impact the next call, because
Yeah.
we have to be able to encapsulate those experiences.
Yes.
And you can do that, but that's another skill that dispatchers learn to develop in order to, one, protect themselves, and two, to be able to move on and deliver the good customer service to the next person, because the next person has nothing to do with our previous one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people can do that. We also have to have a certain understanding, like you've already explained, that we're not going to do it perfect, right? Like, I mean, I share, especially when I teach leadership courses, I'll share a lot of my failures, a lot of the times where I didn't separate the calls, and now I just said something that was snippy or curt at a citizen, and they were kind of being a knucklehead, but they were in crisis, right?
Mhm,
And then I said something snippy and felt really good for about 20 seconds. And then I started
mhm,
feeling bad because I'm a decent human being, and saying snippy things to people isn't the way I conduct
yeah,
myself. Right. And so,
yeah,
now I think there's also things we can do about that. Right. Like
yeah,
I called do you remember Joe Jackson, Corporal Jackson?
yeah.
Sergeant? Okay. So he was my corporal at the time, and I called him, and I'm driving away from the call. And ultimately, what I said was a dad wasn't happy with the tactics we used to approach a building. His son was suicidal. Um, we only had two officers, and he wanted us to approach from different sides. And I was like, "Yeah, that's not happening. Like
Mhm,
we're going to be together, the two officers that are
mhm,
approaching this." And because we approached from the same side, it gave the son the opportunity to slip out the back.
mhm.
Dad was furious,
Oh, I
and
bet.
I asked him what he did for a living.
Mhm,
And he explained to me that he was a scientist. And I said, "Well, why don't you stick to being a scientist, and I'll stick to being a police officer?" And I felt good for about 10 seconds
mhm.
or so. And
Yeah.
then as I drove away and called up Corporal Jackson and said, "Hey, boss, I'm going to get a complaint. This is what I did."
Mhm,
He said, "Okay, Chris, can you fix it?" And I paused, and I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well,
mhm,
are you still there? Is the dad still there?" I was like, I was starting to drive away, but yeah, the dad's still there." He goes, "It's up to you, man. If you want to get a complaint, I'll process the complaint." He goes, "But man to man, can you go back and say, 'I'm sorry, I was a jerk'?"
mhm,
He goes, "I'm not ordering you to do it. You
mhm.
choose, dude."
Yeah.
And it was just a great lesson in leadership. The fact that, you know what, I didn't treat that dad who was in
Mhm.
crisis mode the right way as a human. And
Yeah.
yes, I can go back and look another human being in the eye and say, "I'm sorry, will you please forgive me?" And actually, the dad received me so amazingly. He said, "Yes, I forgive you. And you know what? The way I talked to you wasn't right either. Will you forgive me?" And we had this great moment, right? Like,
Yeah.
so um, it is really hard to do that. And I would agree with you. Most of the time, our dispatchers are getting it right. Most of the time, they are doing a good job of separating
Mhm.
the emotions from those different
Yeah.
calls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you in you and me communicating with each other and just knowing each other and each other's
Mhm.
stories, you and I have both shared in experiencing um, loss, not just at work,
Mhm.
at the high volume, but also in our personal lives. Do you mind sharing that piece of your story?
Yeah, yeah. I think, it's gonna be, it was in 2018 when it happened. And it actually taught me a lot of lessons on what not to do, what not to do after grief, you know? Um, and like most things, you remember those days vividly. And I enjoy talking about it because since that happened to me, I've had two other peer dispatchers who've lost their spouses too. And we've built this, communication here and there. We'll check in on each other every once in a while. Um, and we're all in different phases of our paths of dealing with grief.
Yeah,
That I'm like, oh my goodness, we are so good at dealing with other people's emergencies. We can deal with it. We can get it right, and we will dispatch people, and we will get help to you. But let me tell you, when it has to do with your family and your loved one, we're the worst.
it's really
We
hard.
are horrific.
Yeah.
We just become we do not know how to process, because we live our lives taking care of other people, and we do not know how to take care of ourselves. And that is something that I have worked really, really hard with my dispatchers today about taking care of ourselves.
Mm,
And in acknowledging that we may be good today, but we may not be good tomorrow. And
Yeah.
it could be something obsolete that has no real impact, but it'll be that one person that just tips you over. And in being able to acknowledge when you're getting to that point and addressing it so it doesn't get to that point. But it was December 27th of 2018, and we were getting ready to actually go celebrate our son's birthday. It was our one of our son's birthday that day. And so we were going to actually come down to Walla Walla, because he was also getting sworn in for his next term as county commissioner. And we were upstairs getting ready. The boys were downstairs ready to go. They were all excited. And the last thing I remember him saying is, "I don't feel good." And he's in the bedroom, I'm in the bathroom, and I'm getting ready, and I'm like, okay. And so then I don't hear anything. And then I walk over to the bedroom to see what's going on. And it was, I mean, seconds. And by then he was on the floor. Um, he was agonal. He instantly went agonal. And I had to call my own dispatch center. And I knew what to do, but having somebody with you on the phone while you're watching that person that's supposed to be with you, um, take his last breaths was so valuable to me.
Mm.
And I didn't understand. I knew we played such a critical role in people's lives, and when they go through trauma, and we stay on the phone with them and we talk through them and we give them all the instructions, and that's great and dandy. But besides all of that, having somebody with you through those last moments, it is something that I will never forget. And
Yeah.
and it was a difficult time. And I I returned to work probably in 4 weeks, which I just could not be in the house. The boys went back to school after 2 weeks, and being alone in that house, knowing where he had taken his last breath, and knowing that I didn't have him there anymore to help me with the boys,
Yeah.
was really hard,
Mm.
really, really hard. And so I immersed myself in work, which is like the worst, you know. I pretended like nothing was wrong. I'd go to work, I'd cry in my car before I'd go into the office, and then I'd call it fixing my face. And I'd tell myself, Esther, fix your face, fix your face. And I would put a front, for a long time. And then it 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 made me into a person um that I didn't recognize anymore.
Mm. How so?
It just it I was all the emotions. I was angry, I was
Yeah.
frustrated.
Mm.
I used to be so naturally happy, and that didn't come easy anymore,
Yeah.
and I finally sat down and saw that, my kids were suffering from it because mom was trying to be somebody she wasn't. And I wouldn't cry in front of them, which I learned I needed to.
Like intentionally you weren't crying in front of him, or was it just shut off like you couldn't even try to do it type thing?
No, I think intentionally. I think I
Okay.
was trying to protect them. I think I was trying to be strong. And in the process of trying to be strong for them, I showed them behaviors that led them to think that maybe it wasn't okay for them to cry either.
Okay. Yeah.
And and so I went to counseling finally, and really had a good conversation. And they said, "Well, you realize that you not crying in front of them maybe tells them that they can't cry either, and they can't
Mm.
have these emotions, and they have to pretend like everything's happy Dory, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's not. It absolutely was not. It was horrific. We were all in pain.
yeah.
Um, and so it was it was quite a process. And I think once I learned to start processing that, um, I tried to see the good in what I had experienced. And there's never any good, you know, from loss, but we have to be able to deal with it in some manner. And the way that I um, was able to move forward was, okay, this happened. I'm not okay, and that's okay. And so I quit pretending to people that I was okay.
Mm,
Um, if there was times when I remember taking a call in the comm room, and it was a wife out in actually Colotus. And so, as you know, Colotus is way out there, and there's actually no EMS service. I mean, not directly. So there's a lot of stuff out there. And her husband had passed away. We tried CPR. Um, Everybody was about 40 minutes out,
wow.
and I stayed on the phone with her. And I remember after that call, I'm like, I need to get up because I knew what she was going through,
Yeah, you did.
and it was just, you know, it's little things like that that would trigger it. And I still have things, and it was okay. So I felt at that point I was in my journey of trying to heal myself, and so I did. I got up, and I'm like, I need to get up, and I did. I got up and I took a break, and I let it out, and I, you know, talk, you know, reconfigured myself, and then went back for the remainder of my shift.
Yeah.
Um, and that was okay, but people knew that, hey, she needs a break, you know, and it was okay. And so I think that was very important for me to start learning and start being open about it. And I think a lot of people have come a long ways in understanding where I'm at, and how I've come out of it, you know.
The problem with grief, the problem that I've experienced is being comfortable with these polar opposite um, truths. So like
Hmm.
you said, you really tried to focus and be thankful for what was, I can't remember your exact words, what was happening.
Hmm.
Um, I am not thankful that I lost my daughter, that she died
No,
at all,
no,
period.
no.
I am extremely thankful of the people that loved us over the last year,
Hmm.
that mowed my lawn,
Yep,
that brought me meals, that put
yep,
Bible verses on our front door here this last week. That I mean, the list goes on and on.
yeah,
That's what I am thankful for. And
yeah.
so I can, that's the tough thing though, and again, getting back to the movie Inside Out, which
Hmm.
teaches us that in life, actually, it's okay to have these mixed emotions, if you will,
Emotions.
to have
Yep.
like a little bit of joy and be
Hmm.
like, I'm super thankful for all these people. And but I'm also grieving
Yep.
this loss, and
Hmm.
I'm going to start crying, but in the moment I'm also feeling joy. It's just more complicated, I think,
It is.
than I've thought about it most of my life, because most of my life I was able to kind of compartmentalize
Hmm.
emotional events. This was a good event, so this is positive. This is
Hmm.
good emotion. This was a bad event, and so
Oh yeah.
bad emotion. And what this last year has taught me is just the complexity of it. The fact that you can have those good, or let me change the words on that, because good and bad puts these values on it. And I don't think grief is always bad necessarily. Comfortable and uncomfortable emotions. Joy is very comfortable for me.
Yeah.
Grief and pain is uncomfortable for me,
Yep.
but they coexist.
Yep. Absolutely, they do, and at random times. And I would say I agree that we it is very complex, because the appreciation I have that came out of it is I learned to appreciate every day I have.
Mm,
Um, and for it was interesting because he was 49. So my children, who at that point were younger would say, "When are you turning 49?" And I didn't capture it until like the third or fourth time when they finally asked me, "When are you turning 49?" Because
Yeah.
they thought that was it. That's when mom was going to leave, and now they were going to have no mom and no dad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh wow, this is what they think." And so it allowed us to have good conversations. It's allowed me to bond with my boys in ways that I don't know that I would have before, because I think a lot of the times when we live our lives, like if I look at my life before and after this incident, I went through life and I did the routines and I was like, go, go, go. And I did this and I did that. But I have found myself more and more times sitting down and having conversations like this with people and really appreciating the opportunity to be here and talk about it,
Yeah.
and the opportunity that I had to wake up and take my kids to sports and take my kids to school, and because not everybody gets that opportunity, and whether it's one way or another, our journey here is a blink of an eye, and what can we do that benefits our loved ones but just benefits everybody around us that we touch? How
Yeah.
can we create and leave a good legacy? And it really comes down to appreciating the good stuff, learning from the bad stuff, and making yourself better so that people can benefit. And
Yeah.
a lot of the times people say, "You give so much to the community," and I go, I give because I believe in what I'm giving, whatever
Yeah.
the volunteer work is for. I probably believe in it really strongly, and I think it's going to benefit some people. And not everybody has the opportunity to do this. I
Yeah.
have the opportunity to walk and be healthy and not have certain things going on in my life. And I am grateful for that today. And being grateful for that I think is good. But I didn't do that before. And I've always been very strong within my faith, but this obviously also allowed me to connect closer to my faith, because that's that the complexity of emotions where if you question God
Oh yeah.
and you're like, why me, why us, and what did I do to deserve this, and
Yeah.
what could I have done differently so this wouldn't have happened? What could I've done? And you do that for a long time until one day you're like, okay, so I can't change it, and whether I like it or not, I'm here today. And what good can I do today?
Yeah.
And life's about that.
I agree. And we don't when if we approach life, what I hear you talking about is approaching life with intention.
Absolutely.
You're stepping into the day. I heard
Yeah.
you say that previously you're almost on autopilot. You're almost just
Yeah.
like wash and repeat, right? Like you wake up,
Yeah. Yep.
you feed yourself, you feed the kids, you get to work, you come home, you feed the kids, you go to bed, and there's nothing wrong with that. If people find themselves there right now, I'm certainly not shaming that
No.
routine. Being in the routine sometimes is literally what we need to do.
And sometimes that's all you can do.
Yep. Yep. To create structure. And in the midst of grief, you're right. There were times that just honestly having a calendar sometimes
Mm-hmm.
is what saved my wife and I over the last year. Because if it was on the calendar, we were probably going to get up and do that
Do it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas if we literally had nothing on the calendar, we would want to just either stay in bed or lay on the couch or and have half of our day, blow away. But yeah, stepping out into the day with a certain amount of intention that I want to look for opportunities to rejoice today. My
Mm-hmm.
legs work today. I've had a
Yeah.
lot of sports injuries over the last 6 months. I've been doing all this, physical training
Running.
stuff.
I know.
Yep. And I had a race organizer here a few weeks ago. I mentioned to him about another sports injury that I'd been having, and I couldn't train for like 7 days, and how frustrating it was. And he goes, you know what? I just kind of without writing it into the workout plan, I just recognize that that's part of the plan. Part of the plan is you're going to be injured. You're going to be sidelined in sports and in life
Yep.
where you're not capable to go out and serve or you're not capable to go out and train. And I just know there's going to be times like that. So when they happen, I try to sit in the rest. I try to just be in
Oh,
those
I like
moments,
that.
right? Just
Yes.
be in those moments and go, you know what? I'm not capable right now. And that's okay because I know once I heal up or once these tasks get done or this whatever's
Hmm.
going on in life is complete, I know that if I'm back to my full self, I'm going to step back into serving. I'm
Hmm.
going to step back into physical training. And then when I do, I relish in that even that much
Yeah.
more. You
Yeah.
relish into go out and doing the community events. I relish into that really hard training session that I know is going to hurt like,
Yeah.
but honestly, sometimes I find myself rejoicing in those moments and I'm
Yeah.
just saying, God, thank you that I'm healthy today.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And part of my routine, one of the things actually that we started doing after that happened that is very interesting is dinners, sit down
Yes.
dinners with the family. And working shift work, that sometimes it was very, very hard to do.
Yep.
But making an effort to sit down and eat a meal with your family at least once a day together and have conversations.
Yeah.
And, it's become dinner for us and I enjoy it. The days that we don't do it or we're off different places, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But really, that's one of the things that I think I've changed intentionally or unintentionally. We had to lean on each other for such a period of time together. And so dinners became the time that we leaned on each other the most.
I think it's important to have those kind of rituals, whatever they are, where yeah, you have those standing things. With us having adults, so we only have one daughter that's not an adult yet, and so my wife recently, we have one engaged, another one in a serious dating relationship. So we were like, it was my wife's idea. She's like, we're gonna have Sunday dinners. We're gonna do it twice a month, and people aren't always going to be able to be there because life is busy and they're going to
Yep.
be on vacation, they're going to be
Mhm.
working, they're going to be, but we're going to plan. This is going to be a standing
Yeah.
event. In fact, a week ago, this last week, it was either this last week or 2 weeks ago, none of my daughters were going to be here. Like all of them had other things going on,
Mhm.
so we invited over my parents
Yeah.
because we don't usually invite them. It's usually just our immediate
Hmm.
family. But it was like, hey, we have a menu
Hmm.
planned. Let's still do this family meal. Let's just invite some other family
Yeah.
to be part of it. And I love the ritual because if you don't plan it, if you don't carve out the time for those things, you're never going to have those good conversations,
No.
right?
Yeah.
With our phones in our faces and our TVs
Oh goodness.
and
Yeah.
just all this stuff that has us
Hmm.
constantly connected to such
Hmm.
a huge outside world.
Yeah.
I find us not connecting unless
Hmm.
we have some kind of intentional time we
Yep.
carve out.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think my mission has become advocating for the dispatchers, and recognizing that it may not be grief that they go through, but it may be other challenges they face in their personal lives. And we've developed a peer support team in our organization. And just even the horrible incident that we experienced not too long ago, um, up, just a couple hours from here, it took me several days, but I finally sent out an email to my team and I said, look, I know that this wasn't here, but I also know that this is impactful because we correlate, because they're like, that's
Yes.
a dispatch center, we're a dispatch center. They have fire people, we have fire people, and nobody's immune to certain things like that. And so how would we, work through that? And so I said, it's okay to not be okay. Take care of yourselves. Um, we spend our times taking care of everybody in our community as 911 dispatchers, but we have to be able to take care of ourselves first in order to take care of other people. And, people say that all the time, but it is absolutely true. And putting and building value and policies that support that
Yeah.
is what I have been able to do. And it's not a lot, but it's those little things that I think at some point in time will make an impact at a state level, national level, where people who are exposed to things like that will have um, templated policies that say when certain things happen, these are the processes. And sometimes people need forced built-in breaks from work, you know
Oh
and
yeah.
and we, because we're not going to naturally sometimes take those, and because we think we're tough and we can handle it. you know
Yeah.
and we can, and we will not recognize that we can't handle it until it's too late sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is our women and men are tough and they can handle it.
Hmm.
And but think about it in the realm, since we were talking about it a second ago. Think about it in the realm of athletics.
Hmm.
You see professional sports athletes play injured, and they can suck it up and get through a few plays or even get through the game sometimes.
Yeah.
And then they have to get help.
Yep.
They have to seek out medical professionals
Yep.
that are going to help them rehabilitate. And in some cases, they give them news that they don't want to hear. Hey, you can't play for 6 months, right? Like
Yep.
you can't play for this period of time.
Yep.
And it's really hard. It's hard to do that because we're so used to kind of compartmentalizing,
Yeah.
flipping that switch, being tough, getting through it.
Hmm.
And I also think I think it's tough to receive help when you're used to being a helper,
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And how do you change that mentality? It's so hard because
Yeah.
it's a tough one, but I believe in it. I think that we can change, that culture of being so tough and just pushing through. Um, and I think we can do some good for all of those people after us that are in that profession, and giving them the tools and the abilities to be able to be successful not only in the field but at home.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
this
I
home
think
is so important.
I think one of the things we can do as leaders, and when I say leaders, I am not just talking about people in positions of
No,
authority. I'm talking about
that's
all
not
those,
a that's not a leader necessarily.
not necessarily, no.
Nope.
So, yeah, you could be the newest dispatcher, you could be the newest patrol officer, the newest firefighter, and you could be a leader. And I think one of the things we can do is by modeling the behavior. You talking about the loss of your husband, you acknowledging some of the things that you were doing that weren't healthy. You're intentionally not crying in front of the boys to show, how to be strong. And then acknowledging that you had this turning point where you connected with a mental health professional, a counselor. I like to
Yep.
call them a coach sometimes because that's what they're
Yeah.
doing. They're coaching us on our minds and recognizing some truths that actually it would probably be good for you to have that emotional release. And two, it would probably be good for your boys to know, hey, this is okay behavior. This is just
Yeah.
like we do or just like we do meals together. We do dinner together. Another thing we do together is we cry together sometimes.
Yeah.
I think as a leader, if we can model that, and I'm not talking about me sitting at work and crying, but maybe, and what I really am talking about is us in the right time, in the right events, sharing pieces of our story
Yep.
that other people can hear and see us modeling how we had to ask for help. I mean, when Danny died, we had some friends start up a GoFundMe account, and like right off the bat, I told Jamie, tell them to shut it down. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, we don't need people's money. We've been blessed. We have money. And Jamie, we were actually driving to Spokane at the time, and Jamie's like, I disagree with you, hon. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, I don't give a damn. You just and my 18-year-old daughter, I think she was 18 at the time. Yeah, she was 18 at the time. She's 19 now. She also said, Dad, I disagree with you. So now I'm like, women. No, I didn't really. I didn't think that. All the listeners, please don't send me hate mail. I did sit there and kind of go, okay, tell me why you guys disagree with me.
Mhm.
And they both, I don't know if it was my daughter or my wife, but it was like, we've never done this before. We've never
Really.
we've never lost a child before.
Yeah.
We have no clue what we're up against right
Mhm.
now. We don't, and We have a loving, supportive Tri Cities and Spokane community that wants to be part of our team right now, that wants to help. If they could all come over, like 500 of them, and mow our lawn right now, that would help them. But
Hmm.
we don't need 500 people mowing our small lawn. That's a one person job. So someone already did that.
Yeah.
How are we going to allow the other 499 people to be part? How are we going to let them help? How
Mhm.
are we going to receive help instead of being the helper? And so I said, okay, let's let it happen. And again, I had no clue what it cost for funeral
Oh.
service. I had no clue the times that we were just not going to feel like cooking. Like for
Mhm.
weeks, we were
Oh
just
yeah.
going to have zero motivation, and we still had
Mhm.
to eat. And so we were ordering food, and it just was such a blessing. And but my personality, the default was no, 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 no. We don't receive help.
Mhm.
We give help.
Yep.
And so I think that's a piece of it. If we can model that behavior
Yeah.
for our teams, acknowledge our weaknesses, acknowledge
Yeah.
where, you and I made maybe some choices that wasn't the right choice
Right.
for ourselves and for others.
Yep.
And then what was the solution? So I don't know.
I would agree. I would definitely agree on that. I think um, humanizing ourselves a little bit
Mm,
is always helpful. And I have found a lot of benefit when I'm doing presentations, whatever the topic may be, to build a connection. And the connection may be, a story about me that's not as unpleasant, or sometimes it's grief and what I had to go through. And I have found a lot more success in delivering messages that way,
mm,
because it humanizes a little bit, and we become a little bit more relatable, because whether we acknowledge it or not, we all have the struggles. And grief is not just the loss of a person. Grief can be so many different things, you know.
mm.
And I think sometimes we grieve a loss of a job. If you're in a career and you think, you have defined yourself, and I have learned this through a couple people that have retired from certain services and certain professions. Their
Yeah.
life revolved around what they did, not who they were at home.
Yeah.
And that minute that went away, they crashed.
Yeah.
They emotionally and physically crashed because they no longer had in their minds a purpose, and so it's just it's grief is so many things, and acknowledging that and being able to help people through those difficulties. And I've gone through so many phases of it that I've recently changed a lot of my words to, or my verbiage, my vocabulary naturally is like, those were challenges that I went through, and these are opportunities I have today. And challenges and opportunities, is redefining a lot of my experiences and grief that I went through. They were challenges, absolutely.
Yeah.
And today I have opportunities to address these challenges. And every day is a new opportunity to address that. And how can we help other people that, especially in the first responder world, that struggle with that so much, um, be able to open themselves and give themselves the opportunity to address those challenges of whatever it is retirement, it's loss of a job, it's moving on, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
um how can we deliver that message and change our culture in the first responder world of we're not invincible. We would love to be Superman and Superwoman, but we aren't. And the minute in life will teach you that you're not, real quick. And it hurts when the life teaches you um the hard way.
Yeah. That was beautiful, Esther.
Oh, thank you.
It was beautiful. What was so beautiful about it is you're right. Loss and grief is a universal human experience,
Hmm.
and it looks so different to all of us
Yep.
in different seasons of life and based on what
Yep.
that loss is. and we're not all going, even we can't compare it,
Mm-mm.
right? Like I lost
No,
my daughter. Let's say I'd lost my wife. Your loss and my loss wouldn't even be exactly the same because we're
no.
different humans,
Mm-hmm.
different relationships, different circumstances, different capacity to handle
Yep.
it in that moment. And if we look at life and look at people through that lens, it gives us a greater capacity to demonstrate empathy.
Yep.
When someone cuts me off in traffic, I could get really mad. I could flip them
Oh, yeah.
off. I could do whatever, or I could just pause for a second and go, I have no clue who that person is. I don't know what they're currently going through.
Yep.
And so, you know what? I'm just going to back off,
Yep.
let
And
them move, let
yep.
them move on. Maybe they're just a jerk. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
But
for this moment, I'm going to assume that they might be having some stuff going on. And I'm just gonna let it happen. And I'm
yep.
gonna show some grace here in this moment.
Yep.
And wow.
And it's more help to you than it is to them.
Yeah.
Sometimes, um, what is it? Forgiveness is not for others, it's for you.
Yes.
And I've heard it in multiple different realms and readings and different articles and quotes, but forgiveness is not for us. And empathy, just like forgiveness, is really not for others, it's for us. It gives us that opportunity and that ability to be able to process things a little bit differently, so it doesn't trigger us and we're not just red in the face and doing whatnot. It really calms us down, and there's been times when I not happy, and then I have to take a minute and be like, okay, I have to look at things a little bit differently and give them grace. And the benefits that I receive when I forgive people, when I give them empathy, when I give them grace, what it does to me emotionally and physically is so much more of a benefit probably for me than for them.
Mm. Yeah. Well, in the case of the person that cut me off, they don't even
Yeah,
know.
they
They
don't
don't
know.
even they maybe know they cut me off. They don't know I'm angry, right? And so me showing grace and demonstrating empathy in that moment is not going to change their life at all.
Nope.
But it's going to radically change mine when I just release that instead of
Yep.
carrying around that
Yep.
poisonous anger and that poisonous,
Oh gosh, yeah.
right, resentment,
Yep.
or when it comes to some other circumstances that we can very easily as humans carry.
Yep.
It is freeing when we can
Mhm.
just, you know what, I'm going to release this person, that I'm not going to hold them. Yeah, I'm not going to hold them in anger.
Because
Mm.
then you're gonna get home and
Yes.
you're gonna come home with that anger.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
who's gonna receive it?
My family.
Your family.
Yeah. My
Not
wife,
their
my
fault.
kids. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And and it's incredible the things. Humans are an incredible creature. We are just incredible. The way that we're developed, the way that we process, the way that we're put together.
Yeah.
Um, and so acknowledging that, and then, okay, let's address all these things, and how can we do things so that we are able to go through what we call life and be okay.
Yeah. I think this is a great place for us to wrap up, Esther. Hey, if folks have, in listening to a piece of your story and the things you said, if folks want to reach out to you and connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I am on LinkedIn. You can look me up. It's Esther Click, or our dispatch page. My professional contact information is all on there on our Westcom dispatch. You can look, just if you just Google Walla Walla 911 dispatch, it'll pop right up.
I love it. Well, for the listeners, I'm going to make that really easy. Those links will be down in the show notes. Esther, you've been my dispatcher before,
I
and I
have.
know I've been your officer before, and I say
Yep.
it like that because the dispatchers that I always loved the most, I heard them refer to the officers as their officers, and I like that ownership. I
Yep.
like that personalization that you're taking on responsibility for us in knowing where we're at, in knowing how we operate. And so I just thank you. Thank you for helping me stay safe over a career. Thank you for standing watch for our community and being ready in the good times and the bad to answer those calls.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the relationship and the professionalism and the friendship that we've developed. So it's great. It's been great.
All right, have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Wow, folks, what did you think about that interview with Esther? I am so honored that she chose us, folks. She chose us. She chose you. She chose me to have the honor of hearing a piece of her story. And that's really what it is. When I talk with people going through crisis, going through these major events in their life, some of them will comment to me, I don't know if I should share my story. I don't know when the right time would be. And I share with them oftentimes words from a mentor, a retired police officer, a pastor now, that told me, Chris, not everyone gets to hear your story. They have to earn the right. They have to have the privilege of hearing your story. And if you choose to tell it, you get to choose how much of the story. You don't have to share all 24 chapters of your book. You may only share chapters 9 and 10. You may only share chapters 4 through 7. And it doesn't somehow cause your story to lack integrity when you're sharing only a piece of it, because that's all you feel that person either deserves to hear or needs to hear in that moment. So Esther, thank you so much for choosing us to hear your story. Hey folks, Jamie and I want to hear from you. How are we doing here on the podcast? There's a few different ways for you to communicate back to us. First and foremost, please follow us on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. That will cause the next episode to come up in your dashboard. You can also rate and review us. There's 5 stars waiting on our main page. We'd really appreciate a 5-star rating if we've earned those 5 stars, folks. If we haven't earned 5 stars, keep your stars. Instead, shoot me an email at chris@gravityct.com. Let us know how to make it better. Future mighty Monday motivating ideas or guests for me to interview. Folks, we only get to live this life once. Let's go out and take care of the people in our tribes. Take care of each other. God bless.